But welcome everyone for the latest Trees Around the Globe Student Research Campaign webinar. This is the State of Trees, July 2024, live from the 2024 Globe Annual Meeting in Fredonia. We are at the State University of New York in Fredonia right now, and we are outside, and the weather has been off and on thunderstorms here yesterday and today. We are next to Lake Erie, so that is to be expected. But we are in the sunny area right now outside of the Williams Center, where we are actually having the meeting for the annual meeting for the Globe program. So I'm going to run through this a little bit, and then my colleagues, Dr. Mike Jabot, he will be presenting today about the location that we're coming from and a really cool place called Forever Wild. It's an on-campus forest, which is really amazing. And we have some, the basis of this webinar will be discussion about tree height and land cover between me and Peder Nelson. We'll be talking about this during the webinar. So feel free to put any questions in the chat. We will get to the chat questions towards the end of the webinar today. So I will go through that. So I'm going to be starting off, and then I'm going to introduce Mike, and he'll be saying a couple things. It's really awesome to have Mike here because he's usually on the Zoom virtually, and we get to be here in person with Mike. He is the host of this Globe annual meeting. So we will go through some introductions now and the agenda, and then we will go to the meat of the webinar. So, I always like to start off with a little quote. I thought this was interesting since we're talking about this forested area called Forever Wild on the campus of State University of New York in Fredonia. There is no Wi-Fi in the forest, but I promise you will find a better connection. I thought that was a really, really great quote that was apropos to what we're doing here this week when we're talking about climate and resilience at the Globe Annual Meeting. This quote was by a gentleman. His name is Ralph Smart. He's an artist, a spirit guide, and a YouTuber. So you may have seen him. He has lots of followers, and he talks about really great things he talks a little bit about the science and the cultural aspect of living in this world. So I just thought this would be a great quote to showcase for this webinar. All right, so I kind of went through the agenda already before actually showing you the agenda, but we'll be talking about this location where we are with Mike Jabot, and then we will have a discussion and showcase some images and some observations of the Forever Wild forest here. And then I will talk a little bit about tree height and where ICESat-2 dropped laser photons to measure the trees on campus in the Forever Wild forest. And Peder Nelson will be doing a pretty in-depth analysis of the land cover that is here because he was out doing research and taking observations in the forest. And Mike's has been in the forest often, and he's had students there taking observations as well. So it's a very, as far as data, it's a nicely documented location in the Globe database. And between what Mike has done and what Peder has done, the observations, there are a lot of land cover observations that will help anyone out who's looking for information for this location or just want to know what's going on with this Forever Wild forest. So here we have, I always show these metrics. I updated this about an hour ago. These numbers, I draw your attention to year 6. That's what we're in right now. I should mention also, we have, after this, 2 more webinars, one in August, one in September for year 6. And we'll let you know any status that we hear of for a potential year 7 of the Trees Around the Globe Student Research Campaign. So I want to point that out. We have over 32,000 measurements for tree height, land cover, and green up, green down, also collectively known as greenings protocol. And we have just over 8,700 global sites that are part of the observations. So here, once again, here's a map of where all the observations are coming from. And you can see here on the right some more metrics, a number of webinars, the blogs that we have that are a part of the campaign. And we have participants from 64 countries in a little map there. But what I want to also draw your attention to is the total observations here, where we have over 201,000 observations from over 63,000 global sites. And this is basically from the beginning of the campaign. And also, that was when ICESat-2 was launched on the 15th of September, 2018. So we have a tie-in, of course, with the ICESat-2 mission. So as I mentioned in every webinar, and I'll continue to do that, I provide this data because this data gives us a way to look at change over time, because this we're closing in on the end of year 6, and with NASA, one of the gold standards is that we really try to focus on the how things change over time, and 5 years is kind of that starting point. 5 years, how has something changed over 5 years and then beyond, okay, and projection into the future, okay. So we have lots of data here that we can look at to do just that, to look at change over time. How are the tree heights changing? What's happening with the land cover? And we have the satellites. We have ICESat-2, we have Landsat, we have JEDI instrument on the International Space Station that are helping us out with these observations. Of course, they're getting a lot more observations than we are, but we're in the trillions of measurements from ICESat-2. Probably close to it, in the billions for JEDI, and the Landsat mission has been going on for like over 50 years now. So we have lots of data from the Landsat mission as well. All right, so we just came up with this today. We have our next webinar will be on Tuesday, the 20th of August at the same time, 1:00 p.m. Eastern time. And pardon the wind if it gets in the way of the mic for the webinar, but can't control the wind over here. But this is going to be the State of Trees, August 2024, continuing to make sense of the land cover and tree height observations, including lessons learned from the live webinar at the 2024 Globe Annual Meeting. So you, within the next few days, will get an invite like you do if you're a participant of the campaign. If you just got this from someone else forwarded to you, feel free to send me an email, brian.a.campbell, it's brian.a.campbell @nasa.gov, and I will add you to the distribution list, which is somewhere around about 1,000 or 1,100 people on the distribution list. So, thank you all for staying on that distribution list and not complaining of all my emails reminding you about a webinar 2 months, 1 month, 1 week, 1 hour, and right now. So thank you for that, but stay tuned for that to come out for the next webinar. All right, so before I pass it over to Mike, since we are here at the 2024 Globe Annual Meeting, we have the main meeting area here. Then we have students doing the student experience. They're working with, Peter Falcon on our campaign team. He's out there working with the students in the field, taking observations and working on projects. So he can't be with us today, but he's out there, dodging rain and sun, and, taking great observations with that. So one thing I want to showcase, the students that are here that are part of the student experience are coming from these countries here: Bhutan, Colombia, Croatia, Kenya, Malta, Nigeria, Oman, Philippines, Thailand, and of course the United States. So they're doing this, and they're going to be doing some reporting out later in the week on Thursday about their research and student experience out in the field, taking observations. But yesterday, between 10 o'clock a.m. and 12 noon, the students were out in the field taking tree height and land cover observations. So I'm just going to run through a couple of these that they got for me, that they sent me. They've been taking some observations in the field, trying to add to our database as well. He was trying to gauge, he wasn't taking the actual tree height measurement there. He was gauging, how tall the tree was, so he knows how far to stand back. Okay. So that's cool. I had some students on the field. We have some other folks out there, students taking observations as well. And then they were out doing land cover observations in between these, between this forested area here. We have this open patch of grass. So they were doing those 4 cardinal directions. And Peter will talk a little bit more about, a lot more about the land cover observations when he comes on shortly. So yeah, I just want to showcase these. We have the students right in the field taking good measurements. I saw some in the Globe database this morning. So great, the data's going in there. And yeah, we're super excited. If you happen to use Globe Observer, we actually have folks here that are, when there's a special thing, basically set up a perimeter set up here where when any observation that comes from around this area is provided to Mike and team as far as what data was taken during the Globe Annual Meeting, which began yesterday for the main group. The working groups were here on Sunday all day, and then it runs through Thursday evening of this week. So let's move on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to introduce Dr. Mike Jabot. You have sure seen him on a lot of these webinars, and it's good to be next to Mike in person because we see him virtually all the time. I see Mike every once in a while in person. But I'm going to read every one of these off because I know Mike's a humble guy, but I'm going to read every single one of these off. So he is the host for the 2024 Globe Annual Meeting. He is a State University of New York Distinguished Professor in Science Education. He is the director of the Institute for Research and Science Teaching, State University of New York at Fredonia. He's a U.S. partner for the Globe program, a NASA Earth ambassador. He's a Fulbright Specialist, Geospatial Technologies, and received the Chancellor's Award recipient. He's a Chancellor's Award recipient for excellence in research. So I thought I had a great signature line, but it pales in comparison to Mike over here. So I'm gonna just slide down my laptop to him. Mike is sitting next to me, and Mike, I went and I created this slide. I'm gonna let this slide here. So I think this might be good for you to talk about. So Mike's gonna talk about the location we are right now and why it's important and what he has been doing here, with students and taking observations for the Globe program.
Great. Well, thank you, Brian. Just so excited to be asked to do this. We're having, I think, a very positive annual meeting, and this is the people inside are watching us. If it starts to rain, you'll hear them laugh from inside. So when Brian and Peter reached out about doing this live from here, it's just a great opportunity to share what I think is a pretty special place. A little bit of the I know we're focusing on trees, but a little bit of the geologic history. So we are at the laying basically a glacial outwash plain from the last glacial period that formed the Great Lakes. Because of that, this area is people I think are surprised by this. You drive around, it is really almost nothing but vineyards around us. We are really surrounded by just an incredible grape area, and that's because of the soil from that outwash plain. Also sort of explains the forest structures that we have here. We'd like to have more of a hardwood forest, mixed hardwood forest here. We're struggle a little bit with deer taking away our seedlings. So we have an older forest, and that kind of led to this description. The Forever Wild designation on campus, I think, is wishful thinking. It used to be more wild than it is, but quite honestly, it is in an area where it just didn't make it was not usable to expand the campus on. So it was kind of left that way. We are getting, a year from now, we'll be celebrating our 200th anniversary as a campus. We were the first normal school, I believe, in New York State. And so 200 years, that woodlot has been there. Peter and I were talking a little bit about it. I mean, there hasn't been any focused effort before I came or since I came to try to put in seedlings or anything. We've just kind of left it. They're kind of under that guise of Forever Wild. And so, but I just want to share, it's about a 2-minute walk from my lab to the area. So just an incredible opportunity to have my students who all go through Globe to be able to get into to an area where they can do land cover, they can do tree height, tree circumference, spend a lot of time focusing on carbon, kind of with our theme for a year of carbon and climate. This area is also, it's important. This area was the area where the first natural gas well in the country was drilled. It came out of Dunkirk Shale, so it's a very shallow formation. But we are, the reason why I share that is there is actually a gas well across the road from the Forever Wild. So it's a great opportunity to talk about how our science that we're trying to do with people sort of interacts with sort of human needs and choices like that. I think another unique thing around the Forever Wild, we've had a very focused effort on trying to have no-mow zones around the campus. So if you've ever met Jody Haney or heard Jody talk about her prairie project, we build some of her prairie project in. So between a woodlot that's basically been untouched with some very large trees to an area that now is transitioning to a prairie, to an area that's kind of maintained grass, it's just a great teaching opportunity. Peder Nelson and I partnered on some projects, and he's going to share what I think might be one of the most exciting things we've seen come into GLOBE and helping sort of make that connection between remotely sensed data and the observations that we can have students and community members do on the ground. And he'll explain more about this idea of establishing a grid with known locations that you can send somebody to take an observation at that. And again, to pick up on what Brian said, a focus on change over time. So now, because Peter set up this grid, right now we have this opportunity to look at models for the impact, what we would predict was going on with standing carbon or carbon that's been sequestered. So just such an exciting opportunity, I think, to bring GLOBE to play. We had a lot of people. We were in the path of totality, so we had a lot of people wandering around campus and on the day of the eclipse. But I didn't miss the opportunity to also help them understand some of the things that we could do around land cover and standing carbon. So, but Brian, Brian pointed out my signature line. I just want to point out, I think I get paid by the letter. I think that's why I keep all those things. So, thank you for the opportunity. And I think we might beat the rain.
Yep. Is there anyone online? If you want to ask Mike a question, go ahead and unmute if you like, and you can ask a question. There may be some in the chat. I haven't looked at the chat. Actually, I have it on my phone. Let me see if I actually can see any of the questions in the chat. I don't see any questions in the chat. Does anybody have any they'd like to ask Mike about this location? And thank you, Mike, for the history of the location, the geologic history, and why there's a nature preserve here, which is great. So I'll take a minute or so if anybody wants to unmute and ask Mike a question while he's with us. He's a really busy guy this week hosting the annual meeting. All right, I guess you gave a great history of campus, and
it's just so awesome.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Enjoy the rest of your webinar, and we'll see you in August.
All right, sounds good. All right, I'm going to slide this back to me. Oh, okay, got it. All right, sorry about that. I had to wanted to get some people in there live because we could not see the waiting room from here. So okay, so everybody should be in. Thank you. All right, so thanks to Mike, and those of you who came in late or I didn't let into the meeting room right away, sorry about that. I'm on the screen. I can't see the waiting room right here, but you all should be in now. So, and if you didn't get to hear Mike, as you know, this is being recorded and it will be up this someday this week once Zoom gets it to me and I get it on the GLOBE website, our campaign webinar website. So yeah, so okay. So Mike talked about this here. We are actually sitting, if you look just close to where the S for South is, at the black round building there. It has a little dollar sign on it because the SUNY Fredonia Federal Credit Union is there as well. So that's basically where we're sitting, just outside of that round building where the main meeting is. And welcome to the folks inside who are watching this live stream. So thank you for being here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the things that we've seen with the tree height. I work on the ICESat-2 so I also saw a sound good now. We don't have 100% good connection here, but we're pretty close to the building where we are. So with that said, we have this great this map here, and we actually have the ICESat-2 mission. If you look at the image, the middle image on the top, you'll see these dots. Now, as you know, those are the ICESat-2 photons, and that is one of the orbit paths, and it ran straight through the Forever Wild Nature Preserve that Mike just talked about, and which we're going to talk a bunch about today. And then you can see I zoomed in a little bit on the right, and then the bottom is from the the online tool that we've talked about often for the campaign, the Open Altimetry, created by the National Snow and Ice Data Center in Boulder, Colorado. They're the ones that do a lot with our data and allow a database so we can easily go in and look at the elevation data or the height data, whether it's trees or ice or oceans, anything that has elevation and that ICESat-2 measured, it would be on Open Altimetry. I'm going to go a little further into this now. So you can see here on the left image, we have this zoomed in image of this forever wild forest. So I say real time up here because we were going to do it, but the weather's been a little funky. So Peter and I were out there doing measurements. Peter was out there yesterday doing a lot of measurements. I did some tree height measurements this morning. So this photon here that I have is right at the edge of the forest, right at the edge of the forever wild forest on campus. And it's only, I'm going to say it's only probably like, maybe a fifth of a mile to that spot from here, if that, where we're located now. But we didn't want to get caught in a rainstorm there, so we figured we'd do it this way. So focusing on this photon, all right, I went out and I found ICESat-2 data from it. And remember, when the photon hits the ground, it leaves the satellite as your typical laser photon, small laser beam, with approximately 300 trillion photons. And this photon right here that hit, and when it hits the ground, remember, it expands about the 13-meter diameter footprint. So all the tree canopies that are within that 13-meter diameter footprint, ICESat-2 is able to bounce off of those, and the height return is an average of all those. And I'm going to show you something that was a little tricky with my measurements when I used the Globe Observer Trees tool, all right? And it's just a product of the geology of that location at the forest. But ICESat-2 returned this area at about 26.07 meters, okay? This is the canopy height for this photon right at the edge of this forest. Now, I went out and took a bunch of observations. This is just one of the pictures, and I did an average of the ones I could actually take. So this image that you're looking here is of this large tree that's right there where the ICESat-2 photon hit, okay? Now, that was basically the only tree that was considered at the globe. 5 meters is kind of the minimum for considered a tree. Underneath that is vegetation, and you get to grasses and graminoids, things like that. You get shrubs and all that. But with that said, what you don't see here, what the satellite doesn't see, it doesn't see that right at the edge of this forest, there's a darn big slope that runs down into the forested area. So access to all these trees that are in that photon footprint was virtually impossible to do it safely because it's very thick and the slope was pretty big. So I didn't venture in there too far because I didn't need to slide down this slope early in the morning. So, but I took an observation of this tree, and I got 25.36 meters, and there's a bunch of trees within this 13-meter diameter footprint, but these were just not accessible. And that's something you may run into. But we also talk about, we want you to, in an area, find the tallest tree as one of your measurements. And this was the tallest tree in this photon footprint from ICESat-2. And like I said, I measured this at 25.36. That's just that single tree. Over here is the ICESat-2 tree height. That's the average of all the trees it was able to hit in that 13-meter diameter footprint of 26.07 meters. Okay, I just want to showcase that a little bit. Now, what I'm going to do, I'm going to pass it over to our own Peder Nelson. He's going to bring in the extensive work that he's done with the land cover in this area, along with the data that Mike and students have provided over the years of the Globe Observer data, land cover data that they have gotten. So we added this slide in here, and I'm going to pass it over to Peder now. It's going to slide this down.
Excellent. I'm really glad to be here in person with Brian. Usually we're on opposite sides of the continent. And so it's pretty exciting to be here and talking about what we can actually see in this very unique place that Mike described to us earlier. I wanted to highlight that, a lot of these individual measurements are incredibly important, but they all feed into the 55 variables that help us to identify and characterize the climate around us. So I just want to really emphasize that, these variables, 55 of them, are really what we're trying to inform and help the people who are using this to forecast our future, to really understand what is happening at our location. So, I just want to keep this in mind about why you're doing what you're doing. And again, what's really, kind of fascinating and what I love about going out to a place like this is I get to explore somewhere brand new. I've never been to this forest. I have no idea what to expect. But the first thing I always do is go to a satellite image. And most of us probably do this now. And what's really interesting about this image is that having looked at a lot of satellite images, I can actually tell that this is a winter image. And in fact, we can see that parts of the forest there are just, sticks that are standing up. And underneath it, we see some of the green there that is the grass and is the shrubs that are part of that area. And so, just kind of use the satellite imagery like this to maybe start exploring and thinking about, like Brian experienced, accessibility. Can you get to some of these locations in this area? And importantly, Brian was talking about one of these measurements that is what we call a mixed pixel. It's not all trees, it's not all grass, it's right at the edge. And these edges are incredibly important because if they're maintained, like here where it's mowed, those seedlings from the trees probably don't have a chance to establish and to expand out this forest. In other places where they don't mow around the edges like this is one way that forests expand. And this natural reseeding and expansion of forests is something that we see a lot from space, and especially over time. And it could be something where, the trees that are encroaching on the meadow are not actually what you want, because trees can suck up more moisture or other things like that that might be important to your area. So just kind of, I think it's really important to recognize how important these edges are, where in one direction, you looking north, you'll see those trees, but looking to the west, you'll actually see grass and parking areas. You look to the other direction, to the east, and there again, you'll start to see the edge of this area. And so, even though we scientists really like to have things that are consistent in our area of interest, it makes it easier to describe. In fact, these edges are one of those areas that we see increasing. And this fragmentation of our landscape is just a really important character to keep track of. And so Mike, helped to really fill in the details about why we even see this difference over on the western side of this forest where they have a no-mow zone. And you can actually see the taller grass that is more yellow compared to the green grass that is really mowed and maintained. And so it doesn't have the dead grass actually as that, which is the yellow piece that we see involved there. So again, I look at it something like this, and I did this before I came to try to get an understanding of what I'm looking at. And so, when I came out here, I was able to take advantage of, the work that Mike and his students had previously done. And so I want to highlight what you see on your screen is a lot of individual data points that have been collected, and they mean different things. But what I really want to highlight is that there were no observations in the forested area of the landscape. And so we actually didn't know what was there. We didn't have any samples. And so you can actually see how when I arrived on Monday, I went to these areas where we were missing data and made sure that I left behind photos and data about what I saw that day and the weather. I got rained on, so that it can be of further use to my globe partner here in New York, right? And so that's an important thing that we can do as a community. So I want to encourage you to not only think about data collection for yourself, but also how it can contribute to other people and a local community's understanding, and maybe even encourage them to go out and start repeating those observations, because now they see what you're talking about, right? And then the other dots that you see on this map, the colored dots, are actually 100 meter by 100 meter areas. So this is kind of the site definition size that we're talking about within Globe. And here we had students look at that location and label 100 points, what we call a dot grid. And from that, you can actually see just the different colors show the different land cover that were labeled in those locations. And I want to highlight how we don't have any areas that are just trees, or areas that are just grass, or just one land cover type. And so, that is just an important characteristic about this area. It also tells me that when I come here, to plan on spending a little extra time labeling each of my directional photos, because there's going to be this diversity around. And all of that ends up giving me some insights about the photos and how they relate to the satellite imagery. And so it's great when those students were able to get right in the middle of those areas, and we have fractional cover of how much tree is there, or grass, or these different pieces. So as you saw, we were missing that in what we had done previously. So now that we have our photos and our data points, we can go back and look at the satellite imagery. And it was really interesting, because when I was talking with Brian earlier, we were just investigating the data available here. We found scientists actually had estimated that area to have about 1,000 megatons of carbon in biomass in that area. So, one of the things that has changed over the time of Globe, and even the time of this campaign, is the data has become more available that describes these locations. So again, that's really helpful to give me an understanding of an unfamiliar place. And again, you see on here places where we have tree heights, where we have land cover photos, and also some circle areas there with the crosses that are areas where we want to get observations. And so, this is one of those really important pieces. Is it's helpful to cluster your data in some cases, like we've done here, but that might lead you to missing things like the forests or the trees. So make sure that you spread your observations around and don't end up missing the important parts of your landscape. So I think one of the things that we want to highlight right now is how all of this information sort of comes together. And since we're here at one of the most amazing natural wonders of the world, Niagara Falls, I want to pass this over back to Brian and show you again how this satellite perspective can give us insights that we can then go investigate on the ground. And if we have any more time or anything, we'll take you for a little tour around the Williams Center here, where we're having the Globe annual meeting. Brian, what does ICESat-2 show us?
All right. So yeah, as Peter mentioned, since we are here, just south of Niagara Falls, we actually have a colleague from the ICESat-2 mission. His name is Al Ivanov. He works with the ICESat-2 data, and as you know, Niagara Falls was in totality for the April 8th, 2024 eclipse. So there were lots of folks here, but we wanted to showcase ICESat-2 data over Niagara Falls for folks. And this was already back in March of 2024 when this data came from. So there's a lot going on in these images, but I want to show you here. Here we just have a that's not the way it really looks. ICESat-2 is not that close to Earth, but just show you here, that's over Niagara. Here, what you're looking at the ICESat-2 orbit path. As you can see, this rectangular box here is focusing on the Niagara Falls area. You can see to the North Lake Ontario, and of course, it's going to be Lake Erie out there to the southwest a little bit. All right, so here we have certain things here. We have the ICESat-2 tracks over Niagara. There's top views. You can see the tracks running right over the waterfall area. So very, very cool. And what you're seeing here on those dots, you see those dots down there. Those are the individual photons, like we showed earlier when we were talking, showcasing the ICESat-2 orbit tracks and photons over the Forever Wild Forest here on SUNY Fredonia campus. I'm going to run through these here. These are really cool because you can see they run through parking lot. The one on the top left runs through a little amusement park. It would have been cool if it went across the. Actually, it looks like there were some photons that hit the Ferris wheel there at Niagara. So very cool. And then you can see it ran over the Rainbow Bridge, and also observation areas as well. So. As I mentioned, this was created for the folks to see the different elevations, of the falls and surrounding areas who were visiting here during the total solar eclipse. And then here you can see we have it going over particular areas. This is just showing you the inset photos are showing you the locations around Niagara Falls and the Rainbow Bridge, where we've got the actually elevation data from. So what I want to focus here is this image on the bottom left, and I zoomed it in a little more. This is, it's not as pretty as these, but it provides a heck of a lot of data on Niagara Falls. So what you're seeing here is, of course, you're seeing that blue in the middle, that flat surface. That's going to be the base of the fall. That's going to be the water, okay? But what you see on the left side, just above the flat water surface, you can see some more blue photons. And what that is showing you the precision and accuracy of the ICESat-2 satellite photons. And what you're seeing there is the height of the mist that's coming off of the falls as the water runs off the falls, hits the water below, and you see the mist. You've all seen images or probably have been here seeing that mist as well. That's what the photons were actually able to bounce off the mist and return to the satellite. But then you're also looking at the surface, the green area. That's the surface just at the edge of the falls. As you can see here, we don't have anything between the two greens because that's where the water runs off, and it's just that open area. And then if you look up above onto the land surface, you see the photons that are there in yellow. It's like yellowish orange. This image doesn't discern between the trees and potential buildings or maybe even automobiles that it got the height of, but you can see just how many changes in elevation are in just this one map that's coming from this map right here, the one at the top left going over the falls. So you can see the building that the went over here. You can see the trees it went over, and then it hit some more trees towards the bottom of the falls there on the left side of the image. So I wanted to show you this because, as you know, ICESat-2 mission has a huge tie-in with this campaign. But this is great because since we're talking about this area, we're live from Fredonia, just south, maybe like a little hour, 10 minutes south of Niagara Falls, the U.S. side of them. I wanted to showcase this. So wanted to also mention that we, often create these for particular events, and the April 8th, 2024 total solar eclipse was a big one. So we wanted to create this, and we had a lot of folks interested in this. There were some NASA folks with the ICESat-2 team who were here live talking about the science and showcasing this as well. So I think what I'm going to do now, Peter, you want to do a little go around with where we are? I think this will be great in the next, so in the next, like maybe 10 minutes or so, Peter's going to talk to you about, because Peter thinks all things land cover. So he's going to show you he's on his cell phone with an awesome mic, and he's going to take you around a little bit and talk to you a little bit about what we see here, and based upon what Mike told you earlier about what this campus is, what its geologic history is, and why we have as Peter mentioned, the no-mow zones, and the land cover part of it. There's a lot of things. I'm just looking around now, and there's so much going on right here. It's great. So let me pass it over to Peter, and I'll stop sharing on my end.
Hey, all right. This is working out great. So I'm really excited to be here with you guys. Oh.
All right.
And unmute. That's the key right there. So thank you for joining me. I'm going to plug in my microphone here because it's a little bit windy. And hopefully all of this works nicely for us. I'm excited to take us into the field here. How does that look, Brian? All right, wonderful. Yes, okay, so I am gonna just walk around a little bit and we can see Brian right there going live. And so, as Brian said, I tend to look at the world through a land cover lens. And so, when I look around, I see the diversity of the grass, the pavement, the trees that are around me. And right now, it's been a lot of fun watching them blow around with the weather that's coming through. You can even see, the clouds are, rolling through. And I want to highlight that when we're doing these, oblique or ground images like this, we're getting that cloud. And this is important because it tells us something about precipitation, but it also tells us whether a satellite can actually see us, right? So, if you ever see clouds like this, when you're doing your observation, you should get extra points because that is something that most satellites won't see, okay? So I want to really highlight how valuable your data can be when it is, cloudy and stormy like this. So, let's go around and take a little bit more of a tour, and you'll be able to see, this nice building behind me. And one of the keys that I want to highlight is, the shadows that come off of buildings like this are pretty important, and they tell us something about how tall they are. Like Brian was showing us, that is one of the things that is recorded in our satellite images. Okay, but one of the things that I can't see from here is what color is that roof? Is it white? Is it black? Does it have trees growing on the top of it? Is it a living roof? And so this is one of those restrictions that I have that, our ground photos probably will never show us that. So we need to team up with satellites to be able to really see and understand the shape and the size of this building. Pro tip, if you have an obstruction like this, take a photo of it still. This is valuable information because it is an obstruction and tells us a little bit about our field of view, how far we can actually see. Very important. One of the other things that you should do if you have an obstruction like this, though, is to walk around and to do some additional photos and observations so that you can actually get that overlap that's there. Okay? So, I want to highlight, we've got our GLOBE participants walking around and joining us today with what we're doing. And so, this is a little bit of the context that you should expect at schools or at universities, right? Places where you have this interaction between features that are planted and maintained, and also, the buildings that are being used. Okay, so I want to see if I can flip around my camera right there and show you, I really like this particular location to do a tree height and land cover observation from. And let me tell you why. One is it is actually a circular area that it allows us to quickly see that from space. And so it becomes a really good reference location. And as we let people drive by, we can see that, in fact, one of our challenges for this is that I have to step down and then I have to step up, and we can't see the bottom of all of the trees over there, right? So that's one of the first things that I need to do is just make sure I can see what I'm trying to photograph here. Okay, so you see how much more clear that is where I can see the base of the tree. So what I'd hopefully like to be able to do here is, go over to our globe observer and we could do our photos. But I'm actually not going to open up the app and do that. I am just going to walk you through our protocol because it's a protocol. And so, you know, if I wanted to take an observation of that particular tree over there, the first thing I would actually do is a land cover observation. And so, you know, with that, I am actually going to try to go and do something kind of live, which is scary for me, but I am going to do this. And so here, let's try to share my screen and start broadcasting it. And so now if I go back to my screen here, I've got Globe Observer, and we're going to do a land cover observation. You can see I've been doing a lot of these. I have a streak going from yesterday, and let's add to that. So I want to really highlight how important this date and time piece is. And this is local time, and you know, make sure that works for you. Then the other thing that I want to really emphasize that I think is, you know, something to consider is this location page, right? So it is incredibly important to click this reset button, and you can see how the point moves around a little bit, and my number for my estimated location changes around. So this works really nice when you've got Wi-Fi. So go ahead and do that. You can also double check with the satellite and zoom in if you need to make sure that you are really where you say you are. And since we have really high resolution imagery, why not zoom all the way in and really kind of compare, yep, I'm standing between those light posts and you can see the tree that we're aiming towards right there. So don't be scared to zoom in on your maps and make sure that you're really at that location. Then we are estimating our accuracy at this location. Surface conditions. So this is one that is important for a lot of reasons. One is it gives us some phenology. Snow and ice are a really important characteristic of why you might see the trees that you do in that location. So, you know, same with standing water and muddiness. These are all things that we expect to change over time. And so you're actually doing some phenology mapping here with the leaves on trees question. So we'll add yes to that. And then it is currently not raining and snowing. So here is a really important piece, is we want to do that picture of the satellite going up. And then we also want to take a picture down of where we're starting our tree height measurement from. And so you can do it like this, where you rotate your camera and then you go and you get your up photo. It takes a little while right now, and then we roll down and we do our down photo. I want to specifically highlight that down photo, how important it really is to act just like a satellite and go straight down so that we are getting about a 1 meter square area that you can see here is asphalt and concrete, barren land surface, right? So next we want to do our directional photos and honor, you know, the 4 primary cardinal directions here. Again, it's good to have a backup and to know what direction is north and what we can expect in that direction. It relates to where we are in the world. In the northern hemisphere, I would never expect to see a sun in the north photo. If I was in the southern hemisphere, that's exactly where I would expect to see it. So just recognize that that's an important piece of what we're doing here. So I'm going to take pictures of this location. Got a car driving by. We'll let them go by. See my little technique here. And then we'll put the north direction into that location. And you notice that we've got a little bit of a lag going on, and that can happen. And so just recognize to give yourself enough time to go through the observation and wait for that green light to appear. And there we see Brian. So this is going to be one of those things that is probably going to be flagged in the database initially. And it's going to go under review. And we'll do the east direction now. Okay, here is our review of what we are actually seeing. And so, it's really important to double check your data and your connections to, show that you don't have to go back and redo your photos. Okay, so that right there is exactly what I want. At this point, I am just going to put in here that I am going to do a tree cover will happen to the see, and watch out for misspellings to yours. Okay, so I'm just going to complete my observation right now. I am not going to analyze these photos. I could, and I probably, will at some point, but that is our basic land cover observation. So now one of the hardest things for me is going back to the main screen to then now do our tree height observation. Apparently I haven't been in here for a while, so I get the walkthrough screens, and I'm going in English. It still has all of my stride length and everything there, so we're ready to go now. All right. Happy guy. Same thing. Date, time. Again, because I'm standing right here, it's smart enough to recognize I'm in the same location. So I can just use those same observations. Now, remember, it could start raining, but luckily it hasn't today. Next, we're going to do our observation. And so, again, I'm holding this up to my eye level. I'll click it once, and yep, I'm happy with that. Now I will rotate my phone up, keeping the base exactly where it is to calculate the angle. So I'm happy with that. Again, take a photo right there. Now comes the fun part. You're going to walk with me across, and we're going to count steps. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29 and a half. So thank you for walking with me over here, and 29.5. And we'll go in, and this is an interesting piece, right? We're standing underneath a tree, so I'm going to keep clicking this little reset button. And this is important because I do know a tree canopy will intercept and not give me exact coordinates. This is described in the GPS protocol of Globe. And so just be aware that we do our best here, but that's another reason why we take that first observation of land cover from where we are, so we can see that. Okay, that's it. I don't have my tape measure, so I can't do the circumference, and I am going to click finish. So at this point, we can see that the height of this tree is estimated at about 38 feet. Well, that looks pretty good, and we'll compare that to a couple other people who have measured this exact tree too. So I am going to add in a comment here that this is a needle leaf tree. And that's important because most of the trees around here are deciduous, and they lose their leaves during the winter. So I'm going to stop that one right there, and I've completed it. Again, I'm going to go back to the home page. See if I can do it. All right, we're back at the homepage. Okay, so I'm going to bore you again with one more land cover observation to demonstrate why we want to get another observation here at the base of this tree. One, it gives us a way of having a second coordinate so that we can make sure we are actually in the right spot. And so you'll see again, it takes a little while for all of my information to load. But we'll go through another observation here. And again, you see initially starting off really, 18 meters, 9 meters. I expect this number to not be as good because I'm standing underneath a tree. But keep clicking that little reset button until you are happy or you have it really moved around. Again, this is a measurement that is happening rather than just placing yourself on the map. So this measurement has some uncertainty around it. Again, I can use the same surface conditions because nothing's changed during my observation. And now it's time to do our up and down. So by doing the up photo here, we are actually getting tree canopy cover and extent and what we can see from the satellite view. By rotating downward, here we are getting the root structure and the soil. We can even see examples of the cones or the needles that are in that location. By doing the directional photos here, well, my north view is obstructed because I'm standing at the trunk of this tree, but what this provides is actually a close-up photo of the bark color. In this case, you can actually see some sap, which might indicate that there is some issues that are health issues that are happening with this tree. What is also helpful is we're getting photos of the needle leaf type, and that can be used later to describe this tree type. If I rotate, here again, we are able to see the canopy of the tree and how where it starts off the ground and what it obstructs. Really interesting and different depending on where you are and whether somebody is trying to maintain that tree or not. Here we've got a squirrel running in that direction, which is nice. I'll take this southward direction where we can see much more. I'll rotate 90 degrees. It's really easy once you know one direction because you just rotate 90 degrees. Again, we have a bit of a mixed pixel, and I've only described one of these trees in this area. So again, I will verify my photos. I will add in here that I did a coincident tree height. And if you can remember, it was 38 feet. And so, I'm going to actually, at this point, add some feature photos. And this is something that is a new addition and allows you to choose what is important to you or your area and what you're trying to study. In this case, again, I want to highlight a couple of the different trees that are in this area. So I'm actually going to move a little bit and take a picture of this other area that's right nearby. I'm going to walk over and do a different canopy height so you can see that there's some differences in this location, right? And so I might continue doing that. And I will add one more feature photo because one thing you see is there's actually quite a bit of grass right around here. So with that, I could add in some captions about, tree height or tree canopy. And these notes are really helpful for you, for other people to understand maybe why you took it. And I'm going to complete my observation. Again, for demonstration purposes, I'm going to not label these at this time. I'm going to go back to the computer once these have been loaded up, and I will do it there. And I recommend you might try that as well. But without labels, we really can't compare it to our satellite imagery. So I'm going to skip that for the moment and just finish this. And so, this is really, really, kind of helpful as we go through and look at this particular location. I want to highlight that we can actually pull up satellite imagery here. In the lower right corner, you see this little pixel map. This is what scientists are predicting at this location. And so you can see that, in fact, they are predicting that, or characterizing this area as being urban, red. Because of what we've been able to do, yes, in some cases, it is labeled and agrees that it is red urban areas. Yet we see the nuances of the trees and other things that are in this area. So we try to do this really well in a way that we can compare it to other people's data. So I recommend, pull up this and report a difference. In here, I see trees, not years. So provide some information back and submit that report so that we can start to do this comparison of what we're seeing and what the satellite data is recording and being characterized as. So with that, I really appreciate you coming back and doing this wonderful tour with me. And with that, I really appreciate it. Yeah, here's our tree that we measured. And so with that, Brian, I'm going to send it back to you.
All right. Thank you, Peter. Yeah, that was great. Thank you for doing the live observations and taking a tour of just this small part. It's a really amazing campus here at SUNY Fredonia. So does anybody have any other questions? I saw that there are a bunch of questions in the chat. I answered those. Peter, you might have seen the one was about what does it mean by flagged and do the photos actually get reviewed? And if you haven't seen in the chat, yeah, the photos get reviewed through a combination of AI and a human globe observer team. So as you mentioned, yeah, you can see in the chat here as well. And then also, yes, a great point here from Tracy Ostrom is that, there's certain trees that are, let me go find her comment here. Where was that? So yeah, there's certain trees out there that are often, smaller trees, but they are important to measure the height of those trees, certain like the pinyon pines that she mentioned in her comment. Yeah, as mentioned in the comments, also, historically with the GLOW program and in the science world, a tree, is a tree if it's, at least 5 meters tall. But as you know, a lot of folks, when you buy a sapling or you see a sapling out in the wild, a lot of those aren't often, even 5 meters tall. But it's important to actually still measure those because we want to see and be able to track the growth of those trees over time. And I know if you're taking a measurement of the tree, you're interested in it as well. So does anybody have any last minute questions for either Peter or me? Feel free to put in the chat or unmute that we may be able to hear. Thank you, Luis. He said, very interesting. I think we can improve our work next year. Great. Excellent. Excellent to hear. And thank you all for participating in the webinar. Went pretty well. Sorry, there was a little, we went offline for a second earlier on in the webinar, but we came back pretty quickly. That's just a product of being outside a building where the Wi-Fi is inside. And there's a bunch of wind out here as well. So I appreciate that. Peter, anything else you'd like to say?
Thank you so much for joining us from a different part of the globe. And, please feel free to make recordings of your own observations and share that with us. We're really excited to bring you into the science community. And we really enjoyed getting outside and sharing with you the trees and the communities that we're in. So let us know how we can help you, whether it's data or whether it's inspiration. We're here to help you measure the trees around the globe.
Thank you, Peter. And Joanne put in the post in the comment here. Thank you so much. Big hello to the kids from Alaska. We say hello back from New York, in Fredonia, New York, at the 2024 Globe Annual Meeting. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you next month. Bye-bye.